Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty significant. The U.S. lifting sanctions on Syria recently.
Right. We've got this news report that gives us a first look, really, at what happened right after the announcement.
Exactly. So our mission is to sort of unpack that initial reaction on the ground.
Okay, so the big news itself. President Trump announced the sanctions are gone.
Yeah, quite a turnaround. And the reaction described in the report, well, it wasn't subtle, was it?
No, not at all. It says widespread celebrations just erupted across Syrian cities on Tuesday, specifically.
Wow, celebrations. Not just quiet relief then. We're talking spontaneous street gatherings.
Street gatherings, car parades, people waving flags, chanting the works. In major cities, too.
That really paints a picture. A very strong immediate public response.
It does. And interestingly, the report links this to mediation efforts.
Oh, who was involved?
It mentions Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman leading those efforts. So, there are geopolitical currents underneath this.
Right, that adds another layer. Makes you wonder about the regional dynamics. And this reaction wasn't just in the streets, right? Social media.
Yeah, apparently flooded. Messages of gratitude, congratulations. Seems like a broad sense of relief really spread quickly online.
Which kind of echoes what this political analyst, Quasi-Al-Abd, was saying.
Ah, yes, Al-Abd. He had a specific take on it.
He called it a second victory over the previous regime. He's blaming that former government for why the sanctions were there in the first place and for Syria's problems.
So, in his view, the sanctions weren't just abstract policy, they were a direct consequence of the last leadership's actions.
Yeah, and he said they crippled Syria's leadership and its people. Hindered progress is how he put it.
That's a strong statement about the impact, crippling both leadership and the population.
And you see that reflected on the ground, too, like in Damascus.
Right. The report mentions the Al-Maidan neighborhood, hundreds chanting, but specifically in support of the new government. That distinction seems key.
It does. It suggests people are differentiating between leaderships. And there was that shopkeeper, Mohammed Yassin.
Oh, yeah. His perspective was quite telling. From right there in the market.
He said people were celebrating because the sanctions punished the Syrian people, not the regime. That's almost verbatim, right?
Pretty much. He even suggested the old regime use the sanctions as like an excuse to levy new taxes and fees on people.
Oof. That really brings home how these big international policies can land on ordinary folks. It wasn't just an abstraction for him.
Exactly. It highlights that whole debate about the, intended versus unintended consequences of broad sanctions. Who really pays the price?
And it wasn't just Damascus. Homs, too.
Yep, Homs Clock Square. Hundreds gathered there as well. The report quotes chanting like, "Hold your head high, you are a free Syrian. Thank you."
So, again, that feeling of liberation, relief, maybe even gratitude.
Definitely. So pulling it together from this initial report, the immediate picture is one of, well, pretty widespread public joy and relief inside Syria.
Yeah, and a feeling, at least in these first moments, that the sanctions were tied to the past and hurt ordinary people the most.
That seems to be the dominant sentiment coming through in these accounts, yes.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, it really throws a spotlight on that complex tangle of geopolitics, sanctions, and just everyday life.
It forces you to think about the real-world effects of these big economic tools. Do they hit their target? Who else gets caught in the crossfire?
Exactly. It raises that fundamental question about balancing international pressure with, the basic well-being of ordinary people in really tough situations.
A very difficult balance to strike.
We hope this deep dive gave you a clearer sense of this specific moment, the lifting of sanctions, and especially how it was immediately felt and expressed by people within Syria. A glimpse into what could be a significant shift.